A garden can feel luxurious without shouting. Just ask what happens when quiet geometry meets Mediterranean light and spring planting. This is where softness, order, and atmosphere come together in a way that feels deeply personal, almost like a hidden retreat you can step into and exhale. A sunlit courtyard feels alive with quiet geometry, the clipped hedges softening the crisp lines of the shallow pool and warm gravel paths. The late morning light spills across limestone seating, casting gentle shadows that stretch like quiet invitations to linger. You can almost feel the soft crunch of gravel underfoot, the whisper of lavender in the breeze, and the cool touch of stone as you settle into the warmth of a sun-kissed Mediterranean retreat that feels both ordered and deeply soothing. An intimate walled herb garden wraps you in layers of scent and soft spring green, the circular beds drawing your gaze inward like a quiet embrace. The aerial angle reveals a calm rhythm of boxwood rings and silvery drifts, each turn of the path a gentle discovery. It feels like stepping into a secret corner where time slows, the air tingles with rosemary and thyme, and every stone bench seems to say, "Stay a while and breathe." The long axial promenade draws you down its crisp spine, the alternating bands of cobble and flagstone guiding each step under a canopy of cypress and soft sunlight. Grass and planted beds blur at the edges, their colors shifting from pale green to warm ochre as the sun climbs higher. Walking it feels like moving through a composed poem of light and shadow, the distant pergola framing a dreamy olive grove and inviting you to keep wandering toward the quiet heart of the garden. Soft arcs of low planting fold into one another, the courtyard feeling like a series of quiet conversations between curved beds and narrow gravel paths. The elevated view from stair level reveals how the shapes overlap and balance, as if the space is breathing. Under your feet, the mix of terracotta tiles and crushed shell feels alive with texture, the warm sandstone quartz glowing in the midday sun, and the scent of lavender and rosemary whispering stories of slow mornings. The sun-drenched kitchen garden room feels like a gardener's quiet sanctuary, where every bed is a promise of flavor and harvest. The rectangular plots lie in neat rows, edged by low hedges that hold the chaos of life in gentle bounds. As you stand at table height, the texture of reclaimed terracotta, gravel, and rough stone flood your senses, the pale lime-washed walls catching the light and turning the air into a warm, golden haze that feels like a long, unhurried afternoon. Perched on stepped limestone terraces, the garden opens out into a composed world of silver green and pale stone, the boxwood geometries framing swaths of airy Perovskia and verbena. The telephoto lens compresses distance, pulling the distant olive grove into the frame like a quiet backdrop to your thoughts. The cool gray planting and the soft rust of the sun-drenched stone invite you to sink into a bench and let the shadows stretch, the air humming with the quiet rhythm of a spring day. The L-shaped courtyard feels like a soft embrace between inside and out, the arched doorway framing the garden like a living painting. The The strict angular paving softens where rounded planting islands spill greenery into the stone, the terracotta amphory anchoring corners with quiet gravitas. As you step into the space, the warm plaster and pale gravels hold the light, the air tinged with dusty rose and sage, and you feel instantly at home in a place that straddles order and ease. The rooftop pocket garden feels like a private sky garden, the compact rectangle softened by circular planting beds that cup the light like open hands. The bird's eye view reveals how zinc planters and pale paving fold into one another, the grasses and shrubs painted in soft layers of green and silver. As the sun rises higher, the shadows tighten and the stone water bowl glows, making you feel suspended between the city's hum and the calm geometry of your own personal oasis. The narrow corridor garden slips along like a ribbon of green and light, the low oblique camera tracing the rhythm of the path. The crushed limestone glows warm underfoot, flanked by clipped hedges that hold the spring bulbs in gentle, layered waves. The rough limestone wall rises beside you, its texture catching the sun, and the air feels cooler in the shade of the slender olives, as if each step is a quiet journey through a sun-drenched dream. The formal parterre beside the villa feels like a timeless dance of geometry and greenery, the grid of low hedging and gravel panels catching the mid-morning sun. The central stone basin quietly mirrors the sky, turning the air into a soft reflection of light. As you walk along the edge, the The pale limestone benches and strict grid invite calm contemplation, the palette whispering of cream and fresh green, and the space feels like a sanctuary where order and serenity live in perfect harmony. The courtyard cloister garden feels like a secret library of greenery, the central lawn and curved beds wrapped in a shaded arcade that frames every view. The worn travertine floors hold the warmth of the day, the pale stucco columns rising like quiet companions. The old olive beside the minimalist seat becomes a gentle focal point, the air tinged with soft mauve and silvery foliage, and each step feels like a slow conversation with stillness, the light shifting gently through the arcades. The Cheminda promenade glides along with a gentle cadence, the alternating plazas and paths drawing your eyes forward and your feet ever onward. The recycled terracotta and pale gravel feel warm underfoot, the hedges standing like quiet sentinels between looser drifts of planting. The stone plinth with its simple ceramic vessel feels like a quiet landmark, the palette of weathered tones and soft greens echoing the rhythm of footsteps, and the space becomes a gentle stroll through light-filled geometry. The small floral courtyard feels like a soft embrace, the central concentric rings opening like a quiet invitation to the sky. The shallow basin reflects clouds drifting above, the warm limestone rings glowing in the midday sun. The pockets of mauve and white flowers whisper against the backdrop of creamy stone and olive green, the simple bench tucked into its niche inviting you to sink in and let the layers of light and texture wash over you, turning the moment into a suspended breath of calm. The terraced hillside garden unfolds like a slow cascade of stone and green, each stepped terrace revealing a new layer of clipped hedges and wild planting. The wide lens from the upper terrace pulls the eye down the slope, the pale stone retaining walls glowing against the dusty green and muted rose. The pergola with its climbing roses feels like a quiet destination, the spring daylight softening edges and turning the entire space into a quiet poem of light, texture, and gentle ascent. The best spaces don't overwhelm, they settle the mind. When structure is balanced with living texture, a garden becomes more than beautiful, it becomes a calm way of thinking about home.